This week on Phantom Power Hour.
It never works exactly the same.
It doesn't.
That's the bummer. And let's not forget,
I want a ska song in the style of Meshuggah.
that was super weird. And it felt like kind of a slap in the face as an affiliate.
It's not even, it's collecting. Maybe you just need to be more aggressive with your shakes.
I pay for the protein. I want the protein.
I want the protein. Give it to me. But you didn't say it in a bro way.
I paid for the protein. I want the protein.
Give me the protein, bro. I have a pretty bro thing to say. Took a cold shower this morning.
Oh,
which is pretty
like
gym bro.
Are you like on purpose, like cold therapy stuff?
So I've done that for a few years, but my water heater stopped working yesterday. Well, 2 days ago, technically.
Involuntary cold therapy.
Involuntary, which I voluntarily do it fairly often. Sometimes it's just at the end of the shower I don't know, I run hot, and sometimes it helps with that, just getting really cold. And there's the biological benefits of it. Sometimes I do a full cold shower, but a couple days ago, my water heater got so hot that it was like boiling. And so I had to go flip the breaker off before it decided to explode or something. And I did the common stuff. I checked the pressure release valve, which whoever installed it decided not to connect the pressure release valve to a hose or pipe through the ground like you're supposed to. So it's just sitting there. So had it worked appropriately and the pressure release valve went off, I would have boiling water that just spews into the bathroom where my water heater is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it makes spaghetti of everything in your house immediately.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So involuntary cold showers, though, you don't get the psychological benefit of like, I conquered this. It's now I have to suffer through this.
Like torture.
Yeah. And it felt colder because I didn't have the choice this morning. But it's all good. It's all good. We're here. So welcome to the Phantom Power Hour. I'm Josh.
I'm Jeremy.
That was slightly less robotic than last week's.
I'll do better next time.
Hey, I'm at fault here too.
Wait, we're trying to be robotic.
Trying to be robotic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Wait, no, trying not to? Who knows these days? Speaking of robotic, though, lots of AI news. It's a hot button topic. I'm sure people are tired of hearing about AI this, AI that. Are they stealing our jobs? Are they not?
Took her job.
They took his dog. But there's some new stuff happening on the music side of AI news that we could hit today. Why don't we just jump into it? So I was perusing NPR this morning.
In Peru's are.
In Peru's are. And I won't try to sound smarter than I am. I don't frequently peruse NPR, but I got one of those Google News alerts, and so it was talking about how the Grammys basically recently decided that they're going to allow submissions of tracks that utilize AI. And we've had AI in music for a while, even though people don't realize it. Plenty of plugins analyzing the frequency spectrums. If you use Ozone, you're using AI. If you use Gullfoss, you're using AI, and tons of others.
To what extent is it AI, though? Because I'm using those tools, and it doesn't necessarily feel intelligent.
Yeah.
It's like it's responding to something. So if you're using, this is my complete layman's, but at what line would it actually be AI? Because I feel like everybody calls everything AI.
I think that is a problem, that it's being used as such a blanket statement. My idea behind is it AI or not is there some form of machine learning involved, in the sense of when Gullfoss, for example, right? It's an equalizer that is AI powered, and you can bring up some brightness or make it a little bit darker and do a few things in that sense.
That's one thing I've never understood, as I use Gullfoss all the time. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love Gullfoss. I don't think I know what machine learning is. As much as I like AI tools, and I feel like this might be the old man in me. I don't know.
And this might be the ignorant in me, but I would say, yeah, get us a real definition. I would say machine learning is, it is not hard coded to do this one thing the same way every time, but rather it will change the approach of kind of implementing whatever it is it's implementing. So Goldfoss, the EQ, I would imagine the machine learning aspect would be it changes the approach of utilizing that effect based on what is incoming.
So yeah, this says artificial intelligence encompasses the idea of a machine that can mimic human intelligence. Machine learning does not. Machine learning aims to teach a machine to perform a specific task and provide accurate results by identifying patterns. So that in and of itself is super interesting. So I would probably say Ozone is not AI. And a lot of I wonder if there's multiple levels of AI and machine learning is just in that definition.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always struggled with this because I think when a lot of times we're like, hey, this is AI because it's responding to the music. Well, depending how I set a threshold and a sidechain filter, a compressor is responding to its input.
That's right.
Not necessarily intelligently, but I don't know. It's a weird.
And where does that line start?
Yeah.
If you're using a hardware compressor, then of course no AI involved because
Clearly.
whatever you set it at, it's going to do whatever it's supposed to do at that threshold.
Right.
But then you have some more, maybe like a dynamic compressor. That's a software kind of version of it that will kind of change the response and maybe get a little bit more spongy depending on how hard it's hit or something like that. I would still argue not AI.
I start to get weird about stuff like that because even in that instance where it's like, okay, you're learning and identifying patterns and then adjusting the result based on my input and the input you're getting. I imagine different types of music, you're going to do different things there. With tools like this, I feel like if I was going to get two different results, that'd be really weird and hard for me as an engineer. I understand this is like splitting hairs. I love Goldfoss. I use it. If it's machine learning, it's doing a great job. I'll use it every time. But there was part of me where I'm like, I want that control.
Yeah, or at least know exactly what's happening under the hood.
Yeah.
There's I think it's Soothe, somewhat similar to Goldfoss, but a little bit different,
awesome
I would say.
Plugin.
Yeah, and I would argue maybe less on the AI side of things. I haven't dug into Soothe as much as I have as Goldfoss. I don't even know if it's marketed as an AI.
I don't
plugin.
think so. No, I don't think so. I think it's just it's not a dynamic EQ. It's not a multi-band compressor. It's like something in between, but it's a crazy useful tool. But I've never seen it marketed with AI.
I bring it up because whenever I use it, I hit the presets because I guess I just don't know how to use it.
You and everybody else.
Yeah. So I just hit the preset and I'm like, I wish I knew what was happening. I like the sound of this. Maybe it could be a little less muddy here or something like that. I'll just try this other preset and see if I kind of like it a little bit more. So yeah, that is a good point. When does it truly become an AI tool? Are there actually any true AI tools? Because there's artificial intelligence reverbs, and there are a ton of. Is it just the analyzing of the tracks that utilizes the AI component?
And like giving you like a catered preset, essentially.
Yeah. Is it just like a preset butler?
That's kind of what Waves was touting with their whatever the new plugin release that they just did. I'm kind of surprised I'm still a Waves affiliate after the couple of videos that I put out on them. I removed all the links from Waves because I just want to see how this stuff plays out. I'm still using a few Waves plugins, but I think one of the things when they brought out that subscription bundle was like this whole AI platform. That based on the music you were doing, it could give you all these awesome chains. That's their terminology. And it was just it seems so silly. It's like, this is not AI. You're just feeding me presets based on genre, which I could do that in literally any plugin. Arturia does that in a really, really good way.
Yeah.
Their whole search function is awesome.
I love it.
We're getting off the beaten path, I think.
It's a little off the path, but you brought up the Waves debacle. And for any viewers that don't know what's going on there, how much of that can you talk about? How much of it?
I think I could talk about all of it.
Yeah.
I think I laid it out on those videos.
Yeah, well, if they haven't seen that, definitely go check out those videos. But can you give us like just a quick synopsis to kind of tie together what all this is about? Because everybody that I would talk to, I would imagine if they don't know about what's going on, would just say, yeah, I love Waves. Aren't they like the best in the game? And everybody uses Waves, don't they? That's what I'd imagine most, either you have a bedroom studio or you run a studio. If you're not in the know about the other side of things, you might just think Waves is at the top, and look at the price, look at their model. They're probably awesome, right?
I think there was a time that they were at the top of the game. I mean, they were definitely early in there to the point where they definitely there's I guess a certain aspect of like first entry into the market. And I mean, there was McDSP, there were other stuff around back then, but what Waves was doing seems so far ahead of everybody else. I think the problem with Waves, and this is, I'll wrap back around to what we're currently talking about, is it seems like they don't have that same approach to innovation that they once did. I mean, MaxBase, RVox, RComp, that whole Renaissance series, that was like groundbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were doing was really cool. But here we are 20 years later. Holy cow, I'm old. I'm still using RVox. It's a great plugin, but it's like they're riding the coattails of these things and then putting out artist-specific plugin lines that are like, okay, that's cool if you like that person's sound, but they're so expensive. But getting to the point of what happened. So Waves for the longest time were pretty expensive plugins.
Yes.
And you could buy bundles and you would spend thousands on these plugins.
Literal
and for those,
thousands.
they used to be super expensive. And it got to a point where it seemed like out of the blue, one day they started signing up affiliates. And I was one of those people.
Mm-hmm.
The way they did it was pretty cool. Like it is nice if I can get behind a product that I genuinely like. And I do use Wave plugins. I still do. But I feel weird about putting that out there now, at least putting links in my videos, so I don't. But it seemed like they did a couple things all at once. They dropped the prices of their plugins drastically. It seemed like it used to be their plugins were super expensive. Then every once in a while, holidays, Black Friday, like you knew they were going to drop.
Yeah,
and they would drop to like $20, $19.
And from what I remember, at least in the early days, it wasn't like their whole catalog. It was a few select ones that they maybe just wanted more people to have in their hands or something from a marketing standpoint would go on super sale.
Yeah. And that was awesome. That's how I picked up my majority of Waves plugins that way.
Same.
And then they started dropping the prices more frequently. So then it was like, well, hey, if it's not on sale, wait till next week. It will be. Like I remember having that thought. And then all of a sudden, like all of the plugins were trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was rare that you found an expensive Waves plugin, which I think was fair. Like for what the value you get out of the plugin, I think that's fair.
And if it's the same software that they've been using for 20 years and they're not changing anything or updating anything, why should it retain the value? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. And along with all that price dropping, all of these affiliates then come on board, me being one of them, which at the time felt like, again, it didn't feel weird. It didn't feel dirty. It was like, hey, I've been using these for years. Now I can like talk about them, not do anything different I'm doing in videos, because every time I pulled up a focal chain, RVox was there.
Right.
So it's not like I'm doing anything different. It's just like, hey, use my affiliate link. I get something out of it. And then a few months after that, it felt like a complete bait and switch. The affiliates, we had no idea it was happening. At least I didn't. There was no email correspondence that all of a sudden the pricing structure and the method of purchase of these plugins was going to change. Nothing like that had happened. All of a sudden one day I wake up and I'm like, oh, I have all these texts from my friends. Hey, my Waves plugins don't work. They went subscription only. That was super weird. And it felt like kind of a slap in the face as an affiliate that I didn't know. And then the more I sat down and I thought about it, I was like, they knew exactly what they were doing. And this is all conjecture. Okay, this is just me. I'm not speaking for Waves. I'm not speaking for Josh. I'm not speaking for this podcast.
This is all alleged information.
Alleged information. Let's speak hypothetically. If a company were to do that it would seem like they would know what they were doing. Okay, so I'm going to start a plugin company. I'm going to drop all the prices of my plugins over time to the point where you get hooked on those plugins. I'm then going to get rid of the ability to update those plugins. I'm going to bring on bunch of affiliates to sell them because these people probably really like them because they're good plugins.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to get rid of any other way to purchase that. Even if you have purchased it, as soon as you need an update, you're going to have to switch to this subscription model that I'm doing. And it's going to be really expensive. So even the projects that you've been working on up to this point, you can't mess with those anymore. You're getting that would be really bad if a company were to do that.
That would be rough.
That'd be really bad if a company were to do that.
Especially if it were a really well-known company.
Oh, yeah.
That was huge in the professional world.
That would be really, really bad if a company were to do that.
Okay, so quick devil's advocate side for that company, right? I could see, we just talked about these plugins could have been out for 20 plus years, unchanged, started out high priced because it was kind of new territory for everybody and they were really good. They're still good plugins, right?
Yeah.
But you need people to keep investing in that company. So you drop those prices and it makes sense. Even a 2010 Honda Accord with 0 miles on it today in 2023 is going to be worth less than in 2010 when it was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta drop the prices of the plugins, but you're a big company. You hopefully have a lot of R&D going into new innovative ideas. So you need to fund that. You need to fund all your employees. And you have this other kind of unspoken evil of just piracy and everybody that can't afford your plugins going and just getting for free. And then all of a sudden, even if you can afford your plugins, why am I going to spend this money? I can just go get them for free. They're going to work fine. To combat that, okay, well, let's make it harder to crack the plugins. And let's also build this subscription model so we have this revenue that is guaranteed. Because we know people, like you said, they're hooked on them. If they're not hooked yet, they're going to be hooked after we get them these cheap versions. Mm-hmm. From a business standpoint, I could foresee the meeting of, hey, we could potentially go under if we don't do something. So let's do this. Again, devil's advocate. I'm not behind the decision. I think it was a terrible decision for the company and for the people.
I don't even necessarily think it's a terrible decision to go that way because there are companies that do literally Slate. That's all they do.
Right.
I mean, you can purchase a Slate plugin, but it's stupid expensive compared to the subscription model.
Or there's Splice, right? There's plenty of subscription-based companies out there.
Plugin Alliance.
Yeah.
They do it really, really well. And I think it was the method which they switched to that seemed really... I think it's the method by which the hypothetical company that we're speaking of switched to a subscription model in a very underhanded, weird way that puts a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
I've had issues with subscription-based models from multiple companies that I won't name. Just the philosophy behind it, especially for any type of product that is not getting continual updates. If there are continual, legitimate updates that benefit how it works or provides new features or quality of life improves, cool. I'll pay a recurring fee if I love that product. That's fine.
Yeah.
But something like that I could have gotten 15 years ago that is exactly the same,
and it's not going to change.
Or something like a hypothetical compressor with a letter in front of it.
Yeah.
JComp. Joshcomp. Yeah. We'll have to bleep that out. But that's where my kind of, it just feels so icky where, pay this price and you can have it. It's yours. And you do that for 10 plus years. And all of a sudden you open a project and it's gone. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, hey, pay us more money continually.
And I think there is a certain piece of it where those plugins, you're going to use them, you know how to use them quickly, then that translates to money and time. And if you're a hobbyist, you can know and be totally secure in the fact that there are other plugins that do those exact same things.
So many.
If you really like Arvox, you will really, really like FabFilter Pro C2 on the vocal setting. You'll love it. Mm-hmm. Promise. I'm trying to think of another one that I use. Arbase. Those are the hard ones to replace. Arbase, Maxbase.
Maxbase is a cool one. That's really cool.
I haven't found a single plugin that does what it does. And
you can get similar results with some creative thinking and plugin stacking. But Well, and then you can save that as a preset, and theoretically, that's your workaround.
But it never works exactly the same.
It doesn't.
That's the bummer. And let's not forget all the other guys, like the live side, because Waves and SoundGrid, like there's a whole live section of the industry that uses that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were up a creek. I mean, could you imagine?
No.
Like those dudes on tour, and all of a sudden their plugins don't work, and now you have to rebuild a complete show?
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy cow, I can't imagine being those guys. That would have been horribly frightening. And they were forced into the subscription model quickly for this hypothetical company that we're speaking
Right. This is all an alternate universe of...
This is if I had started a company and did all these things. Could you imagine?
Could you imagine that happening?
Imagine.
I wonder, for this hypothetical company, what time of day that changeover happened. Like, what if you were in Australia on tour, setting up, and it's like 2 p.m., shows at 4:30, got your sound check, do a quick line check before the actual show, and boom, it's gone.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I don't know if it would have happened that fast, because I think you could operate as long as it functioned. But as soon as something went wrong, or I actually had a buddy under this hypothetical company who he had to switch his computer.
Mm-hmm.
So that meant moving licenses. And you can't do that without upgrading or doing whatever. You had to switch a license, which is no longer available. So forced into a subscription model.
Yeah.
Just like that easy.
I would love to hear how many of you, for this hypothetical company, just set up a firewall so that it doesn't talk to the internet anymore.
Can you?
Mm-hmm. Allegedly, you could do that. You could allegedly figure out which ports would be used and block them from access, or you could allegedly block the installer app from reaching out.
But I think the way this hypothetical company functions is it has to see that come back. Like, it's not just sending a request. I don't know if I'm using them right.
It probably depends on what era. Let's think back, iLock era, physical authentication. You were, in the past, believe it or not, able to use almost any software without an internet connection.
Yeah.
So it would probably have to be from that era before the online authorization started. But even going back then, how many of you potentially maybe could have allegedly blocked those ports once that change came about?
They'll exist on their server, and then there's a time limit.
Okay.
So it checks in, I think, every 30 days or 45 days or whatever that term is.
Gotcha.
Because there's been times where I've tried to do something and I have to sign back in, and it has to see that come back from the server before you do anything. So
there's probably some tech heads out there that could find a workaround other than like cracks and piracy. Oh, man. So back to AI plugins, AI stuff. We went on the AI tangent because I guess committee. Is there a Grammys committee? There must be. There must be some collection of folks. There must be some collection of folks out there making decisions for the organization.
Oh yeah, it's clouded in secrecy and mystery.
Is that the Illuminati?
I think.
Are they one and the same?
You can't spell Illuminati without Grammys.
I'm just going to agree with you on that one. We cracked it. That's it. If you have an I in the beginning and an I at the end, you put two I's together, you get Y at the end of Grammy.
Right there. You put the Grammy logo and we put the Illuminati in the A.
Oh, man. Perfect. If this video gets taken down, they got us. We got too close to the truth.
I love them.
So the committee of Grammys, whatever their official title is, have decided to allow entries that have AI implemented. And like I brought up earlier, and we kind of went on this tangent of AI and plugins. Of course, that's been going on for a long time. But they specifically kind of denoted that tracks that have even AI-generated vocals and AI-generated instrumental parts would be in consideration for winning whatever portion. And let me read it verbatim so I don't get this wrong, because there is a caveat. So there's a quote from the CEO of Recording Academy, Harvey Mason Jr., that says, "If there's an AI voice singing the song or AI instrumentation, we'll consider it." Then after Harvey Mason says, but in a songwriting-based category, it has to have been written mostly by a human. That seems real gray to me.
That does.
Mostly, what is mostly?
Well, my mind didn't even go to like who wrote it, but if you're talking about AI generated material of any kind, like we talked before this about the Beatles using John Lennon's voice,
Right.
generated from other stuff in his voice. And so somebody like I think that's a fair use of that technology in their context.
Yeah. And to clear the John Lennon part up, if you weren't aware, the Beatles announced, not all of the Beatles, but Paul McCartney and Ringo have announced that there's going to be one more final Beatles album using older recordings and voice memos of John Lennon, utilizing AI software to kind of single out the vocal line and make it usable for mixing and such. Which, from my perspective, that's a perfectly legitimate way of using it. Now, there's the ethical side of maybe that's something that Lennon may or may not have wanted to actually be used for a final recording.
Yeah.
And you had the same argument with Prince's recordings and things like that.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about AI implementation. And to me, that is really just a more sophisticated tool, and you could do the similar things without the use of AI if you spent a lot of time hunting down frequencies, maybe duplicating things, getting certain bands, and isolating that vocal as much as you could to mix in. But this sounds like fully AI generated parts, including vocals. And is there a line? Does that just mean backing vocals, harmonies? Does that mean lead lines? And I love this era. I think it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Just the idea that we get to live in a time of AI being a real thing, the idea that Midjourney exists and that it is part of the cultural vernacular. But that doesn't mean that I'm also not kind of considering both sides of the coin of, are we heading towards some type of human utopia of technology and technological evolution, or is there some form of creative downsides to all this?
Mm-hmm.
And there were all those debates when, Midjourney and DALL-E and all those other image-based AI generative platforms came out, kind of arguing for the pros and cons and what that does to the artist's jobs. And there have been similar arguments in the music world, but this just seems odd, I suppose, is the best word I can think of right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like there had to be something said. And I was thinking about this on the way up here after I read the article. How would you even know? Do you look at the credits and that's the only way you know who performed on what song? Because you could have ChatGPT write lyrics for the entire song and still take full songwriting credit. You could theoretically use some form of AI voice plugin or something to sing those lyrics and still take the credit for it without telling anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're affecting the voice in some kind of way, using a bunch of auto-tune and washing it out. Who would know if they're actually your vocals that you...
Mm-hmm. And I mean, to that extent, it would be probably surprising to a lot of people if background vocals on any amount of records that you listen to are completely manufactured.
Yeah.
From the main melody line.
Yeah.
Maybe that artist didn't have time to record the backgrounds and that's...
And that's not a new thing.
No.
Yeah.
That's a big part of our job is if the part has to be there, we have to figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, thankfully we have tools like Melodyne that make it pretty easy and transparent to do stuff like that. But weirdly enough, my mind doesn't go to that side of it. It kind of goes to, now I'm worried because what was it? Were people making tracks with Drake?
Yeah.
And it was just in that instance, it's like, well, that's clear and blatant. Like, well, maybe it's not blatant. I don't know. Like some form of copyright infringement, but like somebody couldn't just take your likeness and do whatever they want with it. Because those are like words coming from your mouth. Typically, that's the most control you have over anything coming from you. And now even that is like, that's not a thing.
If you're a person and you are really good at impersonations and you come up with a new just persona that's not Drake, but you sound exactly like Drake and you write in the same style as Drake, Is that infringement? Is that stealing the likeness?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know the answer to that. But I feel like that from that kind of idea of how AI could just take the voice of anybody and turn it into something, I think that's worth part of the consideration of where do we draw the line of, is that usable or not? But that is the scary side of things, especially it's getting so much better. But what about part writing? I mean, you have easy bass, easy keys, easy drummers, where you can utilize real recorded parts and then have it analyzed and then a part created to match that you didn't play, you didn't record, you didn't set up the tone even.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, which I've definitely done. I've used those tools.
I'm sure probably millions of people have already done that, if not hundreds of thousands.
Or even in Logic, or what is it? GarageBand. They have
their drummer.
Yeah, the intelligent drumming stuff. That's, man, it's invasive when you like step back and think about it.
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. My main view on all this is it's another tool that we get to use, and I'm excited about being able to use it. There were discussions similar to this when in the early days of hip hop with sampling of, well, you didn't even make this, you're just stealing this. But there is art to that. And we see that even now today, sampling is still one of the kind of the biggest ways that people produce that style of music or even other styles of music. It's huge and it's awesome and I love it. So why can't we view AI integration the same way? Because it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and there's also an argument to be made, because I've heard the argument that it's taking anything humans could possibly give to in a creative extent.
Mm-hmm.
When Photoshop, that same argument was had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you can change your photos and you can edit these to whatever you want. Like, you're not a real artist.
If that's your viewpoint, you better get rid of any type of modeler plugin.
For sure.
You didn't set up that tone and put the mic in front of the cab that way.
I mean, Photoshop came out a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just to see that happen. And now it's clear, like, Photoshop is, if you know how to use Photoshop and you know how to get what you want from a picture, like, that's a respected form of art now.
Mm-hmm.
That's using a tool that was not respected back then, and you know how to manipulate it. And it takes a really keen eye and a really artistic view that you want from something like that.
I think that's the big hinge point on all this. The manipulation of using that product, whether it's Photoshop or these plugins or a fully written AI part. I think the manipulation aspect is where that human creativity is still implemented and still can be a respectable and admirable form of using that type of tool. I think for now, at least, if somebody were to try to create an entire track of all AI generated things at this point in time, it would probably not sound very good without human intervention. Mm-hmm. But that's just because it's still getting better, I think. I don't think we're going to be able to put the cap on that. And you could argue that there may be some form of creativity that could never be tapped in by an artificial intelligence. I don't know the answer to that. I like to hope that that's the case. I like to hope there's some other form of being human and being creative that just can't be tapped in unless you are a human. Mm-hmm. But assuming there's not, it could be just a handful of years and you could just type some kind of prompt and say, make a song that sounds like this.
Hang on.
But again, I guess typing the prompt is the human intervention part of it. It's just
I'm about to blow your mind.
Limited.
What do you want to hear?
What do I want to hear? Let's see. I want to hear what. Okay, I've never used this before. So, can the prompt be as detailed or as vague as you want?
Yeah.
I want a ska song in the style of Meshuggah.
Holy cow. I don't know that
Should I put it through its paces like that?
I don't know that it'll do like a specific band, but we can try it.
Oh, okay. Or just put in a maybe just in the style of progressive metal.
because it's going to try to do ska and progressing because it won't do specific songs.
Maybe this is actually kind of the savior of humanity because there are not enough progressive metal ska bands.
It's doing like metal drums.
Yeah.
Here's the second one. There you go.
That's a lot closer. That's fun. I like that. But again, at least at this stage in the game, that would take considerable amount of human intervention to turn into the next Grammy nominated song.
But this thing has helped me like when I have writer's block. Like if I'm like, I'm in the mood for like early 2000s metalcore, melodic guitar lead.
Take me to my happy place.
Yeah, like let's see what.
That's ridiculously fast.
Like that's stupid good.
It is. But I would still, I'm a fan of a tool like this because of that. Because it's a tool, it is giving you a different way to step outside of your own box. The same way jamming with a different group of people gives you a new way to step outside your own box. It gives you a different sandbox to play in. And I'm sure there are tons of people up in arms about even a tool that does this kind of thing. To me, it's still a benefit to the music realm because it can help inspire the human side of creativity a great deal, especially if there are a lot of people that do songwriting by only programming because they don't have the technical ability to play the kind of riffs that they want to hear. Well, this can give you, and if you can't play the riffs you want to hear, then you can't jam with people to get new ideas and inspiration.
Yeah.
So
kind of that, it's like imitating a human inspiration wise. Because how many times have you heard something, and these aren't perfect. Like some of those melody lines are like, well, that doesn't make sense, but you can quickly hear it and go, oh, I would do that
right
in that spot.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and how many of you use backing tracks to practice your soloing to?
Oh,
for sure. Many of those, if not a vast majority, are purely human made, but it's still the same concept. It's you're using it as a tool. You're using something that you personally did not create as a tool to expand either your ability or your creativity or your way of approaching different scenarios musically. And that's what this type of AI tool is allowing you to do as well. I want to try one of those. I want to know, like, I don't want to know. I was going to say I want to try the AI voice kind of tools that they're referring to in the article, but I don't know. But is that okay? Is an AI vocal tool different than using like a sampled vocal lead line?
I think it's different in a lot of different ways. I mean, there's definitely value to using the AI stuff, and we've talked about that. The main concerns I see are like, what is it sampling from?
Yes.
And this is coming from somebody who loves AI. I love using ChatGPT. I love Midjourney. I know there are some like, you have to get over some cognitive dissonance there because there are certain things about copyright that I respect and I think should be respected. And there's certain parts of copyright that I think are outdated and should be done away with. For sure. Especially in the music side, not even talking AI. But I think that definitely like AI generated voices, and like we talked about Drake. Okay. That's obviously a popular sound. And if you're synthesizing stuff based on a sample size of his work, who then owns that work?
For sure.
And or say you did a sample size of like some girl in college who's a killer singer, and because now that voice is readily available for anyone and everyone to use, she doesn't necessarily get the credit or the start in the career because why do you need her? Why do you need to pay her? Yeah, you've got her voice.
I back that opinion a lot. I think
it's like going full Little Mermaid. You just Ursula her.
Ursula her. Not to be confused with an axolotl.
They're so cute.
They're very cute. I've considered having one as a pet, but then anything that you have to keep in a tank, I don't think I could feel like I'm on the right side of the ethical line keeping as a pet. Although the argument is you having them as a pet keeps them from going further into being endangered.
Right.
But that's also the argument people have for having a pride of lions in their backyard in Texas. So I don't know. But the main argument that I hear and can almost resonate with quite a bit in terms of what you were just saying about the sample size of a particular artist or vocalist or instrumentalist, whatever it may be. That's what we do as humans. You have the people that shape your own voice, whether it's on an instrument or vocally. And of course, it's a myriad of people that you've compiled from the minute you started listening to stuff, whether you like it or not. You take things from people that you love and you make sure that you stay away from the people that you don't love in terms of the sound and the tone, right?
Yeah.
And that's what all of our creative voices are, assuming that there's not more to creativity. You know, if you want to go philosophical and spiritual and think about, well, maybe there is a collective consciousness of ideas that you tap into in a certain way. I know some people believe that, and there's other beliefs, but for this conversation, let's just assume that your creativity is based on the way you have ingested other musical ideas and kind of informed yourself on whether it's theory or how you play, and then the time you spent on your own practicing your respective instrument or voice. So that's the argument that I hear when people are defending the use of an AI generated voice that is modeled after somebody. And we use amp modelers, and they, maybe it doesn't fall under the category of artificial intelligence, but I would imagine it falls under the category of maybe machine learning, or at the very least an algorithmic approach to capturing an amp or capturing a pedal, right? And it is much different because that amp model is not writing parts for you that you put into a song. I understand and appreciate that. But we have to at least acknowledge some of the similarities of, if you don't have Drake's voice, but you want to create something with Drake's voice, then you're using that tool.
Yeah.
If you don't have a Mesa Boogie, but you want to have the sound of one, you're going to use that tool.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same. They're not the same. Don't hate me for saying all this. I'm trying to have an open-minded conversation. I'm not saying one is okay to do and one is not okay to do. All I'm saying is the lines are very blurry, and they're getting blurrier.
Mm-hmm.
Blurred lines.
Everything always comes back to Miley Cyrus somehow. That's the Illuminati.
Illuminati. We're getting too close, man. This is dangerous.
Miley Cyrus is the Illuminati.
I wouldn't be mad. I love Miley Cyrus, man. I've gone back and forth on if I truly love Miley Cyrus or not, but I don't.
Sometimes it's the journey that gets you to where you are.
That's okay.
What's
That's
that
okay
meme?
with me.
What's the meme she says?
I don't know what she says.
The journey is usually the part that you remember anyways.
I think she had some form of like vocal node surgery or something of that nature. I'm not sure what the story is. All I know is some massively good songwriting, some cool parts, awesome voice, even meme and all. I don't know. I'll stand up for you, Miley. I got your back. Yeah. Unless you're in the Illuminati. Well, especially if you're in the Illuminati. Got your back. Honestly, if they were to pull me in, I wouldn't tell anybody. I want to know. I want to know the secrets.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. If I go missing, I became part of the Illuminati. Find me at the Grove.
Or if the show all of a sudden gets more interesting.
Next episode, Elon Musk is our guest.
We've already said too much.
Oh, that was a spoiler. Sorry. I don't even know how long we've been going. Should we tie a ribbon on this AI talk?
I think so.
So let's do a quick rundown of what we might think some cool AI plugins are. Top of your head. We've talked about Gullfoss. We've talked about Ozone. Have you used Neutron, the other isotope?
Yes.
I don't
click with it the same way. I mean, I don't use Ozone a ton, but when you're trying to do something really, really fast, it's pretty darn good.
They have some cool presets.
It's pretty good.
I love the, what's it called? The imager, the isotope imager that's part of like the Ozone lineup and everything. I think that's super cool. I don't know if it would be classified under their AI side of things.
Probably no. So I think the AI part of it is the assistant that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like taking that of whatever material you're given, it's like, okay, I would do this. And even then, I think it's just using, like, it's basically the idea of setting a threshold on a compressor. I'm sure there's more tricks under the hood, but to me, they have all these other tools. They have tonal balance control, which I talk a lot about on my channel, that it's literally just instant feedback of here's where your EQ spectrum is of your song.
Instant feedback, like you're just putting the guitar up to the amp.
Oh. Visual feedback. Here's your EQ layout of your current song, and then here's a target area of whatever you're trying to hit. Is it what's on Billboard right now? Is it this specific genre? Is it, hey, I want to sound like this record, so I'm going to import that, and it'll build something for you. So it has a way of analyzing that, and then it knows it can use these other tools to get your input closer to that result.
Mm-hmm.
So is it AI? I'm not going to say it's not, but is it effectively more complicated than compressor, threshold, attack? And I know there's more happening than a compressor, but what I'm saying is
you have the two ends of the spectrum. Where does it actually live inside that spectrum? How much of it do you think across the wide span of musical gear and plugins and sprinkles that you can put on top of sounds, how much of it do you think is marketing just hullabaloo, marketing frim-fram?
I don't know how much it actually is, but it feels like a lot.
Yeah.
Every time I see AI, I kind of roll my eyes. And I love AI. Like I love ChatGPT, Midjourney, but it does get really annoying.
Part of me kind of feels like we saw the word algorithm or algorithmic grow in the vernacular in everybody's minds, and it was this huge, fascinating idea. And then you see the downfall of it with social media, and now you have the sour taste. So let's find a new word for algorithm, because I feel like a lot of the AI-assisted tools kind of still fall in that category of maybe you can shape the algorithm a little differently now, but it's still, you got too much bass? Well, here's a preset for you that can kind of scoop out these frequencies that we just understand are normally going to clear it up. It's just another maybe fancier implementation of an algorithm. I don't know. Jeremy, do you have any song or artist recommendations of any kind?
Oh, crap.
I know. I hit you with it. Well, you Ninja recorded last week, so I Ninja hit you with the question.
It's very, very fair. Let me pull it up. Let me pull something up.
Do it.
I don't know. I feel like it's an oldie but a goodie. It's not like, it's just stuff I used to listen to a lot. It was the Thrice, the old Alchemy Index records.
Okay.
The Water and Fire, I think is what I'm into right now. That's been a minute since I listened to those, but they still hold up.
Would you say that it's been a while?
It's a song reference.
So Thrice. Yeah?
Thrice Alchemy Index is what I've been playing right now. It's an interesting take on, they basically rented out a house, if I'm remembering this right. They self-recorded, self-produced everything. They went at it with, and this was early 2000s. So they went at it with those different thoughts and not just lyrical content or instrumentation, but also recording. And it's kind of an interesting way to look at these different techniques in one bite size.
That's
they
cool.
do it so well.
It's been a very long time since I've listened to that, and I can guarantee you I didn't know about that aspect of the recording when I did listen to it. So I'm going to have to go back and listen to it with that kind of perspective. That sounds pretty fun. Do you think, I'm assuming a lot of nostalgia attached to that album as well?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
I love that.
Thrice was big, nostalgia.
I think for me, my recommendation is this little band called Sylmar out of Ohio. Sylmar. Links for all these recommendations and some of the other things we talked about are going to be in the description, by the way. You can check that out below. Honey is one of my favorite tunes, not for any specific reason other than the nostalgia that I have for that tune specifically. Definitely go check them out, especially if you want to be one of those people that said, hey, I heard this band before they were well known, because they're on the up and up. Love those boys and think everybody needs to check them out.
Look at them putting tour dates in the video for Spotify.
they're making moves, man. They're doing
That's
good stuff.
cool.
Doing good stuff. So if you're in the Midwest or down south, it looks like for this coming year, check out Silmar. They're on tour. Their shows are 110% a blast, regardless of the venue, regardless who they're playing with. Go check them out.
And it looks like they're going to be in Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina.
And those are only the July dates or August. I didn't see the dates.
July.
Only the July dates.
The Busy Boys.
Busy Boys. They're out on the road. Check them out. If you go visit them, tell them I say hi.
Man, that's a great idea. Putting dates in the...
I've never thought about that, but that is an awesome idea.
That's brilliant. Well done, guys.
Well done, Silmar.
So clever. And it's on all of them. All of them are doing it.
Nice.
Smart. So smart.
So smart. Smarties.
What do you think about AI? Plugins, tools? Let us know down in the comments below. Other than that, sign off.
Make sure you like and subscribe if you like the stuff. Click that notification bell if you want to make sure you are up to date with all the releases. If you disliked it, instead of hitting the dislike button, send it to somebody that you don't like.
Yeah, they'll hate it.
Yeah, if you hated this, send it to somebody else.
They'll hate it.
Yeah. Since you don't like that other person, provide them with a bad time. It'll help you feel better about yourself and feel better about the time you wasted watching this.
Common enemies.
Mm-hmm. And to really just kind of let us know, tell us that you sent it to someone you don't like in the comments down below. But only be mean to us. We want you to make friends in the comments. So, well,
cool.
Bye.